Hi y'all, Kraken Latte here. Welcome to a new mini-series where I cover my results from leveling through each zone in World of Warcraft. This data is being collected in order to make my new leveling guides. As you can imagine, going through each zone in WoW, sometimes even twice due to faction differences, is going to take a while. So, in the meantime, I'll share my findings with you. Since the process of leveling was changed in 9.0, including the introduction of Chromie Time and the removal of heirloom buffs, zones give different results than before, and that's why I'm redoing them all. I'm not going to repeat the ground rules again so as not to bore all of you who saw the first episode. If you haven't seen it though, please go watch that so you can understand my results and not wonder why yours may look different. Let's get right into it. Alright, starting off with Eversong Woods. This is a horde-only zone, coupled with Sunstrider Isle, which is the small starter zone for Blood Elves. The Sunstrider Isle portion will get you 1 to 6 in about 14 minutes. That is Blood Elf only, so you can move on to the rest of Eversong Woods, which is doable by anyone. That will get you from 6 to 15 in about 100 minutes for a total of the two, 1 to 15 in 114 minutes. Similarly, we have Tirisfal Glades, which is coupled with Death Knell, horde-only zones, and Death Knell is specifically for the undead. You can do a few of the quests in there as a non-undead, but I wouldn't recommend it since you won't get much. But, as an undead, you will get from 1 to 6 in about 17 minutes in Death Knell. If you move on to the rest of Tirisfal, you'll get from 6 to 13 in about 75. Coupling those together, you'll get from 1 to 13 in a total of 92 minutes. Back over in the Elwynn area, we have Ghostlands. This is a spooky forested area that will get you from 10 to 21 in about 122 minutes. I wish you could fly here, but you can't, unfortunately. Maybe they'll add that someday. Back over in the undead area, we have the horde-only zone of Silverpine Forest. This is another spooky forest zone that will get you from 10 to 23 in 93 minutes if you do everything. There's also a good share of rares here, so that's a nice bonus. Right next door, another horde-only zone of Hillsbrad Foothills. This little zone will get you from 20 to 31 in 97 minutes. Only about the first half of the zone is great, and the rest half of it sucks. So I would recommend doing up until East Point. Other than that, this is actually a pretty good zone if you exclude the bad quests. What those are, well, I might just go over those at a later date. For now, these are the results. Just across the faction border, we have the Ruins of Gilneas. This is a Worgen-only starter zone for Alliance, and if you do it as a Worgen, you will get from 1 to 16 in 85 minutes. As you can see here, I did do this one with a friend, but that probably doesn't affect too much. It's a great starter zone though. I do recommend it if you've never done it. I enjoy it. Jumping down halfway the continent, we have the Alliance-only zone of Morogh. This technically belongs to the dwarves, but we have Coldridge Valley and New Tinkertown, which are the gnome and dwarven starter zones as well that are coupled with it. Doing all of Morogh by itself, I've got a few different options for you here. If you do it at 10, will get you from 10 to 16 in 38 minutes, and this zone is actually pretty great for those early 10s. Certainly not good for the later though. However, if you are a gnome, you will start in New Tinkertown, and New Tinkertown is gnome only. You cannot do any of the quests here as other races, and as a gnome you will get from 1 to 7 in 23 minutes, and Coldridge Valley is for the dwarves, which any race that's Alliance can come here and do the Coldridge Valley stuff, and you'll get from 1 to 6 in about 19 minutes. If either of those races move on to Morogh, afterwards, you will get from 6 to 13 or 7 to 13 in about 48 minutes. Jumping down to the human area, we have Elwynn Forest. This is obviously Alliance only, and coupled with the human starter area of Northshire. Both of these are doable by anyone on the Alliance, and if you start in the Northshire area, you will get from 1 to 6 in about 10 minutes. If you move on to Elwynn Forest, you will get from 6 to 11 in about 44. If you decide to do Elwynn Forest at level 10, you'll get similar results to Dún Morogh from 10 to 16 in about 40 minutes. Finally, moving away from starter zones, we have Loch Modan, an Alliance-only zone that will get you from 22 to 33 in about 91 minutes. This used to be a great go-to zone for me on my old leveling guides. It's still pretty good, but not as great as it used to be. At least not without the old heirloom buffs. Still a lot of rares though, so still a great zone. Right next to that, we have the Wetlands. I've got a couple different options for you here. If you start this at 22, continuing after Loch Modan, you will get from 22 to 29 in about 100 minutes. If you decide to come there when you can fly, you'll get from 33 to 39 in about 90. The zone does not yield nearly as much as it used to, and definitely was hit pretty hard with the new leveling squish. Moving back down around the human zones, we have Westfall. This tiny little zone is shorter than you'd expect, and you'll get from about 16 to 22 in 58 minutes. It's pretty short, actually, and it's not entirely my favorite zone in the world, but I recommend doing it at least once, regardless of your faction, just to see some interesting lore tidbits on the Defias. Some good history in this zone. Right next door, we have Redridge Mountains, a little bit better results than Westfall, as you will get from 13 to 21 in about 72 minutes. I internally call this the Rambo Zone because of the later half of the quest line and, what you do there. If you haven't done it, I recommend doing it at least once because it's kind of funny. And for the last zone on this part 1 list, we have Duskwood. Just below Elwynn here, we get from 12 to 19 in 68 minutes. Another fairly short zone, and it's one of my favorite zones actually because it's all spooky and full of creepy lore, so I'd give this one a shot even if you don't plan on doing it more than once. So that is all I have for this week's list of quests. Hopefully I didn't bore you too much. This was part 1 of 2 for Eastern Kingdoms, and you will see part 2 next week.